Many of the most successful actors avoid theater stages entirely, choosing instead to perform in the unscripted theater of daily life. In one room, an executive smiles warmly under flashing press lights. In another, a whistleblower sits isolated in a stark interrogation room, completely unyielding. This contrast defines a psychological metric known as self-monitoring. Coined in 1974 by American social psychologist Mark Snyder, it measures exactly how much people alter their vocal tone, nonverbal mannerisms, and expressive behavior to fit changing social environments. On this spectrum, the extreme ends represent two entirely different ways of navigating the world. On the far left is the high self-monitor, or the chameleon, who fluidly shifts their persona to match external expectations. On the far right is the low self-monitor, the purist, who strictly adheres to internal values regardless of the social consequences. This spectrum challenges our understanding of success. Is the chameleon a master of emotional intelligence, or is this behavior a form of sophisticated fraud required to survive modern hierarchies? In professional life, the chameleon possesses an extraordinary advantage. High self-monitors are adept at decoding subtle vocal inflections and reading minute facial movements, constantly adjusting their presentation to secure resources and status. This chart plots Kilduff and Day's study tracking 139 MBA graduates based on their self-monitoring scores. The data shows a high self-monitor is 5 times more likely to achieve a cross-company promotion and 15 times more likely to transition employers than a low self-monitor. This mirroring behavior acts as a psychological mediator. It converts the inherent stress of career transitions into sheer confidence, making high self-monitors feel vastly more capable of navigating unpredictable job markets. Yet, while this performative strategy guarantees rapid professional elevation, constantly reading the room and suppressing genuine emotional states masks a hidden biological cost. For decades, neuroscientists assumed that maintaining a public persona simply flooded the brain's prefrontal cortex with oxygen-rich blood, signaling intense neural processing. However, researchers at the Technical University of Munich and Friedrich Alexander University recently overturned this narrative. They discovered a phenomenon called neurovascular decoupling, which is highly pronounced in the brain's default mode network, the area responsible for reality monitoring. This schematic demonstrates the actual biological mechanism at work. Instead of demanding a surge of new blood to handle the stress of faking it, the brain increases its efficiency. It silently and aggressively extracts more oxygen directly from the existing steady blood supply. This means the metabolic tax of managing a public persona is silent and deep. It's a cellular drain that correlates directly with elevated rates of occupational stress and cardiovascular distress. The chameleon is literally burning through cellular energy to survive the hierarchy. This metabolic friction worsens across international borders, as the energy required to monitor behavior depends on a country's baseline social rules. In the United States, professional environments reward aggressive personal branding and optimistic self-promotion. But the United Kingdom demands social reserve and polite understatement, forcing individuals to carefully read between the lines to avoid appearing culturally abrasive. The most punitive environment for a high achiever is Australia, home to the infamous tall poppy syndrome. Rooted in a fierce egalitarian streak, Australian workplace culture often resents any individual who attempts to stand out or act superior to their peers. To survive this, Australian chameleons must use their skills defensively. They master the art of self-deprecation, actively hiding their ambition just to escape peer backlash. Navigating these extreme cultural norms forces the chameleon into a constant state of hypervigilance. This exhaustion leaves them vulnerable to moral compromise when high-level pressure mounts. Because high self-monitors rely heavily on social approval, they are highly susceptible to obedience pressure. Under demands from superiors, they are more likely to remain silent or engage in unethical behavior to protect their status. Whistleblowing is almost exclusively the domain of the low self-monitor. Consider Catherine Gunn, a translator at the UK Government Communications Headquarters. In 2003, Gunn defied the UK Official Secrets Act to leak a top-secret NSA memo. The document requested British assistance to spy on and blackmail United Nations Security Council diplomats to force a vote for the Iraq War. In Australia, Military lawyer David McBride operated with the same uncompromising purism. He spent 18 months smuggling classified documents to expose systemic war crimes in what became the Afghan Files, a decision that led to a prison sentence of over 5 years. Gunn and McBride revealed the consequences for the purist who refuses to play the chameleon. When the ethical crucible finally arrives, their refusal to maintain a facade leads to a direct collision with the state. This creates a brutal career dilemma. Conform entirely and you degrade your metabolic health. Remain entirely rigid and you stall your career while alienating your peers. Modern psychology suggests a solution called adaptive authenticity. This is the practice of keeping one's core values and moral boundaries completely stable while flexing your expressive behavior and communication style to suit the audience and context. To build this flexibility, professionals can look to a clinical framework known as Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, or ACT. ACT utilizes specific pillars to maintain this balance. Cognitive diffusion involves observing the pressure to please everyone as a passing mental event rather than an absolute reality. The transcendent self allows an individual to anchor to a stable observer identity separate from their professional roles. The final pillar is committed action, taking deliberate steps that align with core personal values, even when doing so triggers intense social anxiety. If the chameleon's act is so metabolically expensive, why did natural selection preserve it alongside the purist? This personality divide persists because it offers a way to balance leadership risk, an ancient strategy that reveals how a hidden dark triad of traits still dictates who rises to power. To uncover how these invisible power dynamics continue to shape modern careers and global institutions, watch the next chapter of this investigation waiting on the channel right now. Consider subscribing to join this intellectual community and continue decoding the mechanics of human behavior.